talking about filmmakers, which is always a fun conversation. Martin Scorsese. I thought The Irishman was a fucking disaster. It was the most boring, stupidest film ever made. Apparently, this latest one with De Niro and they're on an Indian reservation during the turn of the century, exploiting the oil business.
Oh yeah, that one's supposed to be good. I haven't seen it, but
it sounds, I don't know.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, it sounds. It sounds a bit indulgent and long-winded, maybe. But The Irishman was legitimately a disaster film. That was the script was terrible. But you know what the worst script of a film I've seen in a long time? I don't know why we're on this massive film tangent, but nevertheless, you're from Hollywood. So I feel compelled to speak on this topic.
I could talk movies all day, man.
Okay.
I did a movie podcast for 10 years. So I could talk about this.
Well, then explain to me how anyone could consider in any conceivable way the script for the film Oppenheimer to be anything but a complete disaster.
So what happens in Hollywood at that point? You already have all these A-listers that have proven they're going to make money. So if I'm an unknown director, they're going to say, I don't know, this and maybe, man, but you're, so in the case of Oppenheimer, you had Christopher Nolan, done deal. Christopher Nolan says, I have a script about, puppies eating snail food. They're going to go, done. Here's $100 million. Go make it. So the challenge, and I think this is what happens to, like with The Irishman, like you assemble that cast. You tell me, I'm a studio head or any studio. You tell me, Graham Elwood, I've got Martin Scorsese, De Niro. I've got all these guys, Joe Pesci. I'm like, done. This is going to be awesome. So, I didn't see. I saw The Irishman, and I was like, man, this is a disappointment. So I didn't see Oppenheimer. I don't know. Some people say it's good, some don't. I don't know. But when you attach those big names to it,
yeah.
And the studio puts in whatever, $150 million, they're going to push out through their marketing machine, this movie's great. And they have a whole system in place of they used to call them junketeers. Now they just get sent links and stuff. But these certain amount of critics who just go out and they get free movies and free stuff, and they're paid well. And they're basically, it's sort of give us a good quote. You know what I mean? Like they're just out there pushing it, saying this is amazing, and everyone will kind of buy it.
Yeah, it was marketed well, and it won Academy Awards and a lot of Academy Awards. And Cillian Murphy is an incredible actor. Yeah. And but the script was really terrible. They managed to make this story, which should be an interesting story, they managed to make it very melodramatic and soap opera like, and really stripped it of any dramatic tension, actually. So there's a few different ways you could have done the script that I thought would have made it much more compelling film watching. But this was not in any way. I mean, in 5 or 10 years' time, I think people will look back and say, that film, the script is horrible and overhyped.
Another reason why scripts. Again, I haven't seen Oppenheimer, so I can't speak specifically to Oppenheimer. But another reason is why this can happen in the big studio system. They buy a script, and then they bring in punch-up writers to add to it. And I don't know if this is what happened with Oppenheimer, but I've seen this with like the adaptation of like a really good book or something, or the studio, somebody writes a great story, and then you find out it had 5 different, and they're not listed in the credits.
Right.
So now we've got too many cooks in the kitchen.
Right.
The writer's vision got diluted and watered down. And so that happens a lot.
Well, 2 points. Number one, I heard that Shawshank Redemption was shot word for word exactly as the original script was delivered.
Which is why it's great.
Which is could be why it's great. And Christopher Nolan, of course, he also directed Dunkirk, I believe. Right?
Was that Dunkirk?
I think.
Let me look that up.
I think he did Dunkirk, and Dunkirk, I think, was masterful movie making, and one of the best movies I've ever seen. And principally because of the direction of the film and the cinematography of the film. The performances are great, and the script is great, but the vision of that film.
Yeah, Christopher Nolan did direct
of the director's vision of that film was realized on an epic scale, truly an epic scale that was nuanced and powerful, and a great film. So I mean, that I'll say that about Christopher Nolan.
I think he's a great filmmaker, and he has a very singular vision. But it's also like in the totality of somebody's career, 20, 30, he'll have a 40-year career.
Yeah.
Everything's not going to be a home run. That's just the way,
No,
you know what I mean?
not.
That's, Michael Jordan missed a lot of game-winning shots.
Yeah, 3,000.
Yeah.
He missed 300 or something.
Something like, yeah.
I read that quote all the time. I'm the greatest because I missed 3,000 shots. I missed 300 game-winning shots, and I'm still the greatest.
Yeah.
Well, who's the strikeout king of all time in baseball?
Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
This is what guys think about when we fuck up. It's like, you know what? I fucked up, but Michael Jordan fucked up too. So did Babe Ruth. So It's okay. But it's also an American thing, because in America, it's not how many times you fall down, it's how many times you get up. Whereas in Europe, it's you get stigmatized if you have any failures at all in your resume. So people are fairly afraid to take risks. So it's not a risk-taking entrepreneurial environment in Europe. In the UK, it's not entrepreneurial, it's not risk-taking. People grow up to want to be civil servants. Like I remember when I met somebody in France once, and I'm saying like, what, when you get out of college, what do you want to be? What's your career? And they were like, I want to be a civil servant. That was their goal in life. And I'm like, what? That's what you're aiming for? And I'm like, you would never, ever hear anyone in the United States. I think when I was growing up, no one would say, I want to be a bureaucrat. I want to be a paper pusher. I want to be a rubber stamper. I want to be a nobody in Nowhereville. But in Europe, it's like, you've made it. You've made it.
Well, to your point, since we're talking about movies, I mean, that is a common theme in a lot of Hollywood movies is the guy got his ass kicked and get back up. What's the theme of Rocky? The first Rocky, he loses. In Rocky 1, he loses.
Right.
But the scene in Rocky that's the most significant is that they're in round 14 or 15.
Yeah.
And they're just sitting there. And Rocky comes back out. And Apollo Creed goes, the look on his face, this is where Rocky actually won the fight. The judges didn't give it to him. Right. Apollo Creed, Carl Weathers, had just passed away, R.I.P., great actor, goes, this guy keeps coming at me.
Yeah.
That is the goal. And if you watch, I watched Rocky again a year and a half ago, right before I taped my comedy special.
Yeah.
Manifested at grahamelwood.com.
Oh yeah, it's great special, by the way. I have it on DVD.
Doesn't exist on DVD, but I really appreciate you saying that. I have it on Laserdisc.
I have it on a VHS tape. And I play it religiously every Easter Sunday.
We all watched it while we were doing peyote with this doctor last weekend. And
during the peyote dropping session, we watched Graham Elwood's Biodome, Part 7, with Stephen Baldwin's child. And it was comedy genius, from opening credit, title card, end credit, nonstop hilarity. You never stop laughing at this film. Biodome 7.
Biodome 7.
And Stephen Baldwin's illegitimate step cousin. It's a classic. If you like Caddyshack.
It's the Caddyshack 2.
It's the Caddyshack 2 of sleepover movies in the desert with giant worms. It's called Biodome 7. It's a great film on VHS only. It's a collector's item.
This is our most informative episode about Bitcoin ever that we've ever done.
Totally, totally, man.